Okay, hello, and welcome to, did we decide what we're calling this? S, we're testing out a name, SM Blab, right?
SM Blab. Yep.
SM Blab playing off SMB. Yeah, we have some cool topics today. We're talking a little bit about WebRTC and the call center. A pretty shocking statistic, I thought, on hosted VoIP. Did you
Yeah.
did you find that shocking?
A little,
A little?
but,
All right.
but,
Little teaser.
we'll get it. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. And we're also going to talk a little bit about a great article that the CEO of Infusionsoft wrote about small business 2016 resolutions, which I don't know if you have that experience where I felt like that article was written just for me. But as I was reading that, I was like, oh my gosh, like he's inside my head and wrote like the perfect article. So I really liked that one. But first of all, Happy New Year. Did you have a good break, or what did you do?
Yeah, I was down in lovely Naples, Florida with my daughter for a basketball tournament. And they played really well. They lost in the first game and dropped down into the losers bracket, but then they ended up winning the losers bracket. So ended on a high note and had a great time there. Spent New Year's Eve down there, and then spent New Year's Eve with her and the team on the beach of Fort Myers, Naples area, and then flew home New Year's Day. So nice time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I always forget that you're like basketball kind of, I wouldn't say, well, fanatic, is that a good word? Basketball fanatic?
Yeah, my my corporate company Twitter feed is at VoIP CEO is probably more girls basketball than it is technology. But that's all right.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, awesome. We've got, as I mentioned, for those of you who are joining us who haven't before, we like to take a look at some of the recent news that's happened in technology, specifically telecom or communications technology. And then we also like to look at some things that are happening for small business, since we're both small business owners, or I guess, Mike, you're more of like a medium business owner. But yeah, we like to talk about some of the struggles there, and we've got some great articles to go over today. So I'm going to post them over here in the question section. And this first one is all about WebRTC in the contact center. And Mike, before we get into this, could you give us maybe a little bit of a history of WebRTC, like how it
yeah, sure.
how it came up?
So previous to WebRTC, if you wanted a browser to have access to the camera on your laptop, to the speakers on your laptop, to the microphone on your laptop, you would have to go through a third-party app like Flash or Java. So not JavaScript, but actual Java. And by having that kind of third-party intermediary, then everyone had to have Flash and all the Flash updates and everything that everyone was kind of tired of. So you had to download this. You're constantly downloading a third-party application just to get access to the media on the laptop. And so what the standards bodies came up with was HTML5, and part of HTML5 was the ability for the browsers to have direct access to speaker, microphone, and video camera with proper permissions and so forth. So it's secure, but it's also easier. So no additional software to have to download, no Flash, no Java. And now browsers can have direct access to the media. And then that was done through a set of standards called WebRTC, Web Real-Time Communications. And so that standard told the browsers and developers how to get access and how to set up these calls, these real-time communications. But it didn't tell you which protocol to use to do that actual call setup. So you could create your own protocol and do call negotiation and codec negotiation. Codecs are how audio and video signals are transcribed so that both sides know exactly how to receive that signal and turn it into something that makes sense. And but how that happens isn't part of the standard. We went and created a set of libraries that allow you to use SIP as the protocol to set up WebRTC calls. So you've got SIP that does kind of the call setup layer, and then WebRTC that tells the browser how to access that media. And that's a completely open source library called SIP.js that we support and manage in the open source environment. But that's kind of the history of WebRTC, that it was advanced as a web standard, part of HTML5, and has been available without any additional software or anything to download in Chrome and Firefox for probably a couple of years now.
Yeah, very cool. Like this article that I just posted in the chat, it hints to like the early beginnings of WebRTC, and I realized I was like, I don't know if I know the story, and so the viewers probably don't either. So this article goes through 4 different ways that contact centers can use WebRTC. I think the first one's probably the most common and the one that everyone knows about, right? Like a caller is online and they see a button that says talk to support, and they click on the button, and they're suddenly talking through their through their software, like you said, like through their browser. And same with number 2. Was there anything in those first 2 that you'd want to call attention to? I definitely want to talk about number 3 because it just happened to me, but wanted to see if there was anything in those first 2, like placing a call from a website or an agent receiving a call, that you wanted to call out.
Right. I completely agree with their analysis. And I also see, since it's only in Chrome and Firefox today, it's not in Safari. That on the user side, so I'm visiting a website and I see a button that says, click here, talk to me now. That's getting less usage than the other side, which is the agent. So the agent sitting in the call center with WebRTC, now the agent has control over what browser they're going to use. So they just use the Chrome browser. We're seeing much higher adoption on that side of the call than on the other side of the call. I think we talked about in the last call where we had a fundraiser, so a like a public telephone or a public TV, public television company down in Atlanta. They wanted to have a fundraiser, so they needed to have 11 people taking phone calls for a couple hours for a telethon. And so instead of going out and getting 11 phone lines and 11 phones and the whole thing, they already had 11 laptops. So they used 11 laptops and WebRTC, and boom, they had an instant call center. And so we're seeing a lot more adoption on that side of it, that instead of having to go and buy desk phones and everything, that people are just using WebRTC as the call center phone, as the phone for the call center. And then that way the phone call and your CRM and everything is all right there on your laptop, and you're not having to move around, and you get better integration that way as well. Right.
Yeah. Really amazing technology. And that, I think what's really cool about that is you're able to support, like those guys running that telethon, they don't need a solution all year long, right? And so this is a really easy way for them to set up, do their event, pay for what they need as they go, and have that flexibility. So number 3 on the article that's here in the sidebar. When I first read this, call surfers targeted via analytics, I was like, what? And I had to read this to understand what it was saying. And then all of a sudden I was like, I think this just happened to me. So I think it was 2 days ago, I was on HubSpot's website.
Okay.
And, they've got a great website, and I was looking at some content and whatever. And it wasn't while I was on the site, but it was very close proximity that suddenly I got a phone call from HubSpot. And, and they tried to play it off like they just happened to be following up and all of these things. But I was like, I bet I would not be surprised if they have some sort, I mean, of course they have visibility into who's visiting them, but I wouldn't be surprised because of like how short that time was, if they were using some sort of WebRTC to just kind of like call people while they're on the site or, you know, shortly thereafter. So I was impressed, you know. I took the call and I talked to him. I talked to him for a bit, but I was like, wow, you know, this technology, while some would say it's kind of scary, big brother-ish, you know, from a marketer's perspective, like it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other big thing is, so let's say you do a whole Google AdWords campaign, and you do a great job, and you have all these great landing pages, and you get people. So you see these click-through rates. That's great. They're sales qualified leads. They come to your website, and now they call your toll-free number. Now you've got a break between the Google AdWords side and what happens from that phone call forward. So this phone call, was it a result of this search or that search over there? You know, and there are certain workarounds and different things that different people try to do to bring those things together. But WebRTC does that seamlessly, because it's now not a break. It's now just they came in through Google AdWords, and then they clicked the button to call you. And so not only is it just a phone call, but it's a full data connection. So you get to see, you can pass along a Google tracking number. You can see what's in their shopping cart. You can see if they visited before, all those types of things. So that's part of it too, that by keeping the user on the web, then then it's a seamless movement from Google AdWords to all the way into Salesforce to up and running customer. So you've got that whole data connection, which is complete marketing gold. Yeah, amazing stuff. Okay, great. Well, anything else on that article before we switch over into the VoIP article? No, the only other thing I liked too was kind of the virtual attendant menu. So instead of having to call one number and then press, you know, one for customer service, and then 2 for billing, and then 3 for credit card billing, you know, the whole thing, you can have little buttons. Click here for if you're having problems with credit card billing. Click here for technical support. Click here for you know, to move your phone number. So taking that whole attendant menu and just making the buttons on the page, and so then you click there and you're talking directly to the department that you want.
I love that. Yeah. Nothing makes me more frustrated than sitting through the phone tree, you know, and like pushing the wrong button and starting over. It's terrible. So I look forward to where that becomes the standard, and you can just click to dial like exactly who you need to talk to. I think I think customer satisfaction will skyrocket when that.
Oh, absolutely. And since it's WebRTC, your account ID already goes through and everything. So no putting in your 6-digit account number, all that. So absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I don't understand what those things, and I'm going to post this while I'm making this complaint. I'll post our next article. Is why when you're calling customer service for companies, why do you have to continually give your account number, right? Like why isn't the first person you talk to, why aren't you set up and then that's kind of like passed along? But
my big conspiracy theory is that that's just there to buy them more time. So it's just keeping you busy. That's all. Just busy work.
Or to make you so frustrated you just hang up and try to figure it out on your own or something. Okay. I post the next article link over here in the sidebar. And so what I found really shocking about this is the statistic that this leads with. 72% are not familiar with hosted VoIP. And maybe it's because this has just been my career since 2007. and back then I knew that no one knew what it was. But I think like the last few years, I guess I've kind of taken for granted and you know, within the industry that we work, that everybody knows what this is and everybody gets the benefit. And, you know, they purposely surveyed, you know, telecom customers. And so what this told me is that, gosh, the opportunity is still so huge
Right.
For hosted and cloud technologies, and that, we really have not hit critical mass
Yeah.
as of yet. So I don't know, what was your reaction when you saw that?
Yeah, for me, I use the mom test. If you ask my mom what I do, something with phones maybe is probably what she would. The words hosted VoIP would not be used at all, and it
Yeah.
reminds me of our CTO here, John Reardon. John and I started a internet service provider in the late '90s, and kind of the same thing. Once my mom said she had an AOL account, I knew the internet was going to be an actual thing. So that was that was really the watershed moment. I knew we had crossed the chasm at that point. So yeah, especially the term hosted VoIP hasn't crossed the chasm. I think phone service over the internet, people are Vonage and others have certainly done a great job of getting that word out for years and years now. So it's that as a concept is getting there, but yeah, hosted VoIP is it's really what it is. But yeah, that is a phrase still needs a little bit of work. Yeah.
Yeah. There is an analogy that we used back when I was at Telesphere that I feel like explains it the best way that I've ever heard, and I continue to use it. But it's the idea that, we used to buy CDs, right? And we used to buy LPs. I guess LPs are kind of making a comeback with the whole like hipster movement and stuff. But, once things moved to the cloud, then into iTunes, you didn't have to buy the entire CD,
Right.
You could access your music from there, and you could pick and choose, like, I want these 3 songs instead of, all 12 on an album and things like that. And like, I always thought that was a great analogy. And the same thing has happened with business phone service, and that you don't have to buy this huge box and babysit it and put it in a closet, that you can now access through the internet, like all these different cool features, but only the ones that you really want and you really need. And, so I don't know. I thought that was a really good analogy, but yeah. So
no, it is funny. I did buy some vinyl this year for a buddy of mine for Christmas, but I bought the album and then I framed it and gave it to him so he could put it up in his basement for the artwork on the front of the album, not to actually play the album. And the vinyl's sitting there inside the frame, but yeah, it's more for the artwork than for the music itself.
Yeah, it's totally making a comeback. And side tangent, like until I really got into music over the last few years, I didn't realize how much of the music is actually lost by compressing it into such a small like digital file.
Right.
And so actually when you're listening to a CD or vinyl or whatever, like you're hearing so many more hertz, like different things than and I didn't know that. And so now that I know that, I try to, make an effort to get the CD if I really like the music, so I can hear it how the artist intended it. But that's just because like that's what I geek out on is music. So
there you
that's
go.
It.
Awesome.
That's my thing. Great. Anything else in this article that that you wanted to bring up, Mike?
No, it does a good job of covering kind of the benefits of hosted VoIP, of hosted services in general, specifically hosted VoIP. It lowers the costs for small, medium businesses, and sometimes dramatically. More flexibility. One of the things that they talked about, which we see all the time, is free calls from branch to branch, from office to office, and especially for people with a bunch of branches, a bunch of different offices, people working at home, you're paying local or long distance charges for all those calls. And with VoIP, A, it's 4-digit dialing, and B, those are completely free calls. So that's something that not a lot of people think about.
Well, that's a really good lead-in, because I know didn't you guys just help a customer with this, the George's Music? See, like we're tying in music and technology. That's our theme today. Tell us a little bit about George's Music. I know they have like a bunch of different locations, and you guys were able to help them out with that 4-digit dialing between locations.
Yeah, that was exactly it. Their head of IT came to us and said, "Look, our phone system is keeping track of our phone system is a nightmare. It's a different bill for each store. We have to call, full long distance, 11-digit dialing to get from store to store and person to person, and we're paying long distance for all of those calls." And there's no real way for someone to call some main number and get transferred to their local store. Just all kinds of flexibility that he wanted and he couldn't get by having local phone companies for each of the stores. And they have stores in Pennsylvania and Florida and kind of all over. And so, yeah, we were able to consolidate their phone service under one bill, under one administration panel. So in one panel, they can log in and see all of their users. They can see all of the phones that they have on their system, all the phones that are currently online, all of their phone numbers, where each phone number goes, the ability to change the routing of those calls, and calling each other via 4-digit dialing from store to store and headquarters to store and from state to state. So yeah, really simplified the management and the billing and the ease of use of their entire phone system.
Nice. If you could estimate how much you saved them in terms of time and hassle and cost, like what could you even pull out a?
I don't know if I could or would even pull out a number, but you make a very good point. So many people are looking at just what their monthly bill is. Okay, so for an AT&T, when I take all these bills and put them together, I'm spending $2,500 a month. And when I switch over to OnSIP, I'm at $700 a month. And we typically see a dramatic change, in those levels. But the other thing that they don't always count in is now how easy it is to administer the whole thing and how much time that they save. One, how much time their individual employees save by being able to 4-digit dial people, how much time their entire IT staff saves and their billing department by not having to look through all these bills, not having to try to figure out how all these calls are routed. So yes, there's clearly a bottom line end of the month savings from kind of old school telco to hosted VoIP, but really the probably just as big, if not bigger, is all the time you save of employees spread throughout your company, billing, IT, and then just the ease of use of individual people being able to talk to each other quicker and more efficiently.
Yeah. It's such a piece of that overall cost of not even ownership, but like just management, right?
Right.
Is to factor in how much time do you have to spend babysitting it or
right.
dealing with someone or something like that. So for sure. Awesome. Well, in our last few minutes, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about just small business. As I mentioned earlier, we have this article was written by the CEO of Infusionsoft. I didn't even realize that till after I read it. But I don't know about you. This one resonated, like every single thing on this list resonated with me.
Yeah.
Was there anything in particular that called out to you?
No, I liked all of it. I mean, just starting at the top, collect the money that you're owed. Also, I would add a caveat of try to figure out if there's a way that you can even so that you don't have that big book of receivables. If there's something you can pre-bill or whatever you can do to even so that you don't have a big book of receivables at the end of the year. But if you do, now's the time to really focus and go out and go get that. I really like the let go of the employee that's bringing you down.
Yeah.
It's hard to do, but especially here. I mean, two things: one, your leadership comes into question, and two, one bad apple, can really does bring down the entire staff. So it's tough, but make that resolution and go and do it. What did you think about test a new marketing strategy every month?
I thought that was interesting. That was maybe the one that I thought, well, I guess if you're adding something new to what you're doing, kind of like what I'm doing with my whole fitness plan, it's like I can't do it all at once, right? So it's like this week I focus on bringing my lunch to work. And then next week I'm going to focus on drinking more water, whatever,
Right.
like my lunch to work and drinking more water, or, whatever. I think a lot of marketing is lost in lack of consistency. And so if you're just going to switch tactics every month, I think that you're not ever going to get enough data to make a good decision. But if we're talking about just kind of layering and like adding one thing at a time, then I think that's a good plan. Yeah, I would probably caution against just switching gears every month, because that's going to just cause a lot of stress and with not a lot of result.
And that's interesting, especially about the data. I was just talking to my 8th grade daughter. Somehow we got a bunch of feedback here all of a sudden. Are you hearing the echo or just me?
I was a little earlier and then it went away.
Right. But yeah. I was just talking to my 8th grade daughter. We had the whole going over math homework. Oh, when am I ever going to use this again? Like math is everywhere now. I was talking about in our marketing jobs, it's looking at Google Analytics, A/B testing. There's just so much analytics everywhere. But yeah, especially, and the example I actually used was marketing, where it used to be, okay, make sure it looks good and that it's got the right messaging and everything. But now on top of all of that, there's a huge component of going in, running these tests, getting a bunch of data, analyzing the data. So that was, yeah, you're right. That's the only thing that did strike me here was, it's not going to be very scientifically rigorous if you're switching things all the time, but switch one little thing and see what happens. But yeah. And then the last thing, for automate what you can, I'm a big fan of automation, but I'm a big fan of getting the process right in the first place. So really work on the process and get the process down and then automate that process. If you don't have a good process and you automate that, you're just automating inefficiencies. So get your process correct first and then automate it. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. That's something I'm spending a lot of time working on. We're Infusionsoft customers, and but it's kind of been like sitting there for us for a while. Like, we've been using it to just send out a newsletter and stuff like that, like not really using it the way it should be. And so one of my resolutions this year is to actually go deeper within the tool to help automate. And there's so many things I'm discovering, like like customers where I need to send them a credit card authorization form or something as simple as that. Like, we figured it out to a point where all you have to do is like select a particular note in their contact record, and it can automatically send them that email with the form, instead of me like, searching for it and attaching it to the email and writing the email out, stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we've had this tool for a few years and I just haven't taken the time to learn it and get into it. But that's definitely going to be top of our list for 2016, is to get that automation so that we're all a little more efficient and have more time to focus on the right things, growing the business and providing more value to our customers, things like that. So
have you seen the website If This Then That, IFTTT?
Yeah, we use that quite a bit.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of little triggers. One that my older daughter thought was completely annoying is when I reach the campus of her high school, it sends her a text that I am within a mile of her high school, which she thought was totally annoying until she needed, she wanted me to pick her up some water before a basketball game, of course. And she knew when I was on campus and was close, and before you park, can you get me some water? So
yeah.
And
very
I
cool.
used one to greet my Twitter followers, which is really nice. So I thank everyone for following me, and that I do that through IFTTT, and then it sends me an email. So yeah, there's some nice tools there to automate some of the more mundane tasks, so you can focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, it was great to chat with you again. I think we have another one of these scheduled in about 10 days or so.
Right.
Not next Wednesday, but the following Wednesday.
Yep.
So we'll be back for those of you guys that joined us. We're always going to talk about small business technology and just small business in general, and would love to have your guys' questions and comments and things like that. And hopefully at some point we can bring some other people on and have more people join the conversation. But It was great to talk to you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we'll see you next time.
Great. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Bye.